I've learned to find a way to prompt well. And I pay. It's only like 800 baht a month. It's cheaper than hiring anyone. The way this generation of AI works is they don't actually understand at all. It's remarkable how obtuse or stupid this method is. And it worked. You won't be able to tell what's real or not. I'm on a camp that people don't care. The longer is not necessarily the better. Having a good life is a good goal. Using AI. I actually talk to AI every day now, but I feel like in the future it will be a norm. So it's not about finding the best tool, it's about realizing that I'm flawed. Okay, just give it to me straight, man. Like, do I suck or not?
Stuff like that could happen.
Not could happen, it's going to happen.
Okay.
It's already happening. I think michhachip or like scams, that's like the least of the concerns. Killer drones are real. People are gonna fall behind.
What else do we have to protect ourselves, humankind?
Humankind. Now this show is evolving into such an epic one.
This is Community Featuring. My name is Vic and welcome to the show. Our guest today is thankfully a human. Don't get me wrong, I love human, and this person is a very intelligent human, but still a human. So we have talked to a wide variety of people on our show from different professions, from different walks of life. And I think humans are still very interesting to talk to. But can you imagine one day if we get to interview an AI on the show? It wouldn't be a first though. Take a look.
Do you think of a world where humans and robots coexist?
I think a world where humans and robots coexist would be an amazing place.
Well, of course, you still feel a little awkward, and some might say cool, and some might say creepy. I'm still on the fence, but super curious. How might that go if we can actually have a real conversation, a valuable and deep conversation with an AI. So back to our guest today. So this person, we've seen him talk to our CEO on his show, The Secret Sauce by Ken Nekorin. And we think to ourselves, if we ever have to talk to someone about the future of human and AI, it's got to be this person. So let's go talk to him now. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
ดร.ณภ
ครับ
นะครับ
ครับ
ครับผม Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and this is not your first interview or even 2 or 3 times with the standard. You have become a familiar face.
Yes, I'm here almost every day now. I love to be here. Thanks.
Okay, I love having you here. So today, of course, and obviously, we'll be talking about the AI stuff, right? But let's go back a little and talk to you yourself, about you yourself. You have been and still are, I'm not sure, an economist.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were called a great thinker, and you are, of course, a CEO. You are a data technology entrepreneur.
That's a lot of things, huh?
That's a lot of things to be, but you are all of those.
Sure. Let me give you a brief background on myself. I'm an economist by training, but I like to think that what I do is helping people make better decisions with data technologies, from big data, AI, data science, to things like blockchain and stuff that doesn't work yet, but will be in one day. And I enjoy them immensely. Like I love my job, and I do that through some of my companies.
Yeah.
And the problems we help solve range from things like how to prevent people from dying on the roads. You know that people die on the road. Like Thailand has like 15K per year, and it's been happening like for decades. To problems like how to predict demand of goods, how to prevent people from gaming the system in the stock exchange, to really obscure stuff that nobody is excited about, but I am, like predicting whether or not a transaction on a blockchain will land with a certain probability. Some of you might enjoy this, but if so, please join the company. So that's what I do. and I love it. And it's been about enterprise level, analytics, stuff that has to do with organizational level problem solving. But with Gen AI, I think it's becoming more and more personal. And I'm happy to share my views on that today.
So talking about data or like deep technology or super advanced technology, a lot of people might feel that it's still very distant from their understanding. But of course, it's very close to humans' life. Maybe I think it's like in our lives without we even knowing it. But to try to understand it like wholly and super well, do we need to go that far to understand what's going on in terms of technology or AI?
So whatever I just said, that's my job, right? I think for the majority of people on this planet, you probably don't have to know all the details about how it works and whatnot. But I do think you need to have the right mindset to think about all the things that are happening around us, right? Because remember that technology is what brought humanity to this level of development. But also, like people talk about this AI wave as being really volatile, really risky. Like there's a lot of opportunities ahead, but we have no clue what's going to happen to all of us. What's going to be fake or real? What's going to happen to our jobs or our kids or even ourselves, right? I hear people all the time complain that like, oh, สงสารเด็กรุ่นนี้ like, oh, I feel bad for these youngsters. Right? And then they're like, oh, shoot.
I feel sorry for myself too.
Am I going to be around next year?
Right?
Because if you look at jobs, right? Like people think that like if you work for big tech or large corporation, it's safe. It certainly was not the case in the past 2 years, right? Like, so things are changing rapidly. So at least I guess get a good understanding of what's happening and what you need to do to adapt and survive.
At least get used to how fast it changes, or trying to understand that there's always new things to learn every day. But you don't need to know everything in order to go on, I guess, but you still have to understand the big picture of it. So you can pick and choose how you would relate yourself to whatever is like advancing ahead of us.
Exactly.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do at both institution that you're working at right now, like the Thai and Thailand Future, but สถาบันอนาคตไทยศึกษา and also ViaLink?
Sure. So at Thailand Future, first of all, it's not a political party. People get that wrong a lot of times. But we do research that propels Thailand's foundation to do well in the future, right? And we pick and choose certain topics that we would do. This year we do digital assets. That's another sleeping giant that people misunderstand it a lot. People think it's all about scams and speculation, which is not wrong, but it misses the point of what's happening to it and what it's going to and how it's going to affect capital markets, financial markets, or even the digital economy as we know it. So that's more like a public policy side of things that I take care of. I used to work at Harvard Kennedy School. It's part of Harvard.
People know about that now, I guess.
After the election, right? And I was passionate of using data to inform policies so that it's worth the taxpayers' money. So that's been something I've wanted to do for a long time. And we can talk more about this as well because this episode is probably going to be about skills, education, and stuff. And when I did my PhD, I specialized in economics of education. And so there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and a lot of opportunities to craft better policies for Thailand. So that's more of a public side of me. For ViaLink, it's a tech startup, which is still alive and well. We want to decentralize commerce excellence that you would see in Lazada or Shopee or Amazon or big players. We want to be able to equip other companies to produce, stock products, fulfill products, and deliver products really well with low cost, without having to pay, to develop their own IT system.
I see.
And use AI to help all of that, right? From production to like last mile delivery to your home. I spent a lot of time in the US and I've seen how Amazon did it. And it's pretty remarkable how they did it in terms of, investments in the data. Because without that, then you can't do it, right? But then again, you don't see that happening here or anywhere else. Because it's tough and it requires a lot of thinking and redesign. And so at ViaLink, we want to equip different companies of all trades to have operational excellence with AI. And hopefully they make more profits and everyone's happy.
So they can focus on what they do best, like producing great product and providing best service, and then you help take care of the rest.
Yeah, because if you look at it, right, pretty much everything could be automated.
Sure.
Like even production. Some of our clients wanted it to not be completely automated at first, but once we ship the product and it works all the time, they're like, why spend an engineer's time doing this when and then they move the engineer to do something else that has more value added to the company.
You've mentioned before you spent quite a long time in the US. So for how many years and doing what?
For too long. So I was at Saathit Jula first, and then I moved to the US for high school.
I see.
I thought I was great at math, but I was not.
No.
So it's a type of school where everyone seems to be like a genius. And I'm like, oh man, what is this? They gave me a calculator.
I see.
TI 83, 84. And I was like, oh, this must be easy, right? Like I'm from Asia and like, I'm good at math.
Yeah. We're known for being good at math. Even the worst one, like myself, I'm still better at math than a lot of like Americans.
Yeah, and then they even gave me a calculator. I was like, and a book. And then I was like, a book too? And then it ended up being, I'm like not the best at all in all the subjects. So that really taught me how to persevere in a challenge.
So this is not like the typical usual kind of high school that you were attending.
I guess.
Is it like the specialized?
It's probably more specialized than most.
Okay.
But I struggled a bit. I got a C in English.
Okay.
But it didn't matter.
Right.
I couldn't do I couldn't write. First thing I had to do was read Elements of Style, and that's like the most important book for writing. And then I wrote my first essay in life. Got like a B minus.
Okay.
I think B minus was kind. I think the professor was nice.
Okay.
But that taught me that I had to write better. And it's important in life and in anywhere else you go. Even with ChatGPT, I still argue writing is the most important thing that you should have.
I think the word like prompt engineer are floating around, and we kind of like heard of it, but maybe you can tell us more about prompt engineering in this episode too later, maybe in our conversation. So you were in the US and you kind of know that you have to pay a lot of attention to your writing skill and your math. And what else? What else did you enjoy at the moment? And did you have like difficulty adjusting your life into the society or?
No, I actually loved America. I loved it, and I almost did not come back. That's why I told you I spent maybe too long. I was there since high school, went to college, went to Cornell, then went to get a master's in international finance at Johns Hopkins in DC, and then somehow decided to do research at Harvard Kennedy School, and then a PhD again. It's a long trip of.
Was this all planned? Like, did you know that you would go as far as PhD when you were in like studying bachelor's?
Well, if you're a firstborn in my family, I think you were kind of forced to do. Son, do something that involves economics.
Did your father have any say in your like education journey?
Well, what do you think, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it's a lot of schooling for me. Probably too much, but I did enjoy my experience. I was a good student, and what I loved the most was the experience of being abroad and being independent.
Right.
I think it's risky because that's when you form your identity, right? Like as a teenager. But also you have to like do everything on your own.
Right.
I work at restaurants too, just to get a feel. Rode buses, got robbed in a bus.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, like total package of how to be an Asian in America.
Yeah.
Right? And also because I wanted to know if I wanted to live there or not, or come back.
Oh, okay. So you weren't know for sure. You didn't know for sure if you wanted to come back, or like ultimately you know that eventually you'll have to come back to Thailand.
No, I was dead serious of starting a life there because I was so used to it.
I see.
And I love the values there. And there are so many towns and states that I could vote with my feet. Right? If I don't like a particular city, I could just move to a different city.
Right.
I've been moving cities. So I live everywhere except West Coast. Like I could be a great Grab driver or something. Like my resume is full of driving, like the South and everywhere. So I enjoy moving a lot. But now I'm completely settled in Bangkok.
Yeah, you decided to come back. Why?
I think it had to do with Trump winning a bit. Can we talk about politics?
Really?
It's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so he won, and I was like, But then also we have relatives here. Our families are here, and as much as people lose hope about this country, I'm an investor at heart, and I think this is undervalued by a lot. Like you look at stocks, right? Like they're not as profitable, right? The companies, but you know that there's talent in this country, in this room, in this company, and everywhere. It's just not organized and in a good way to bring it out.
A lot of untapped like sources or talents, opportunities.
Yeah, and that's why we decided to come back.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you're back. So you can, I mean, you've been contributing a lot too. Yeah, and I think it's gonna be fun and profitable and beneficial to a lot of people, at least who are watching right now. So one thing that I'm sure a lot of people want to learn more about is the AI thing, because everybody's talking AI right now, but not necessarily that we have a good enough understanding with it. Of course, we use AI like we use Google, like to help us a little here and there. But I'm sure that a lot of people want to do more, like squeeze more out of
it.
The AI. Yeah. Do you have any advice on people who kind of use AI on a regular basis already, but not know how to get more out of it?
Yeah, for these people, congratulations, right? Like these are the first movers. They're the more, I think, more adapt to the technological change. I think to get more from it is to get together with friends who are into the same thing and follow people online who do incredible stuff with their lives. I actually talk to AI every day now. I'm not sure if that's for everyone,
Okay.
But I feel like in the future it will be a norm. Like since ChatGPT came out, I talk to AI probably of all conversations I have in a day, at least 20% is with an AI.
Wow.
And I foresee that by the end of this year, it will be maybe half.
Right.
Maybe that's because I'm running a business and I need to talk to my employees. But I guess in the future, you might be talking to friends who are not humans. Girlfriend, boyfriend, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
we've already heard of it, right?
Yeah, like a
we're
AI
treating
girlfriend or
AI
something.
Yeah, we're treating AI as a friend, a co-worker, a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a therapist, right? Yeah.
And these things can do wonders, right? And I'm not so worried about people who want to squeeze more. I think you'll be able to get there. YouTube is probably the most valuable source of information on how to do better. I think what could complement would be, a mindset of why do you want to do even more? Is it because you want to be a prompt engineer, or is it because you want to just do your job better or have a good life?
Right.
Having a good life is a good goal using AI because we're so constrained by like time, money, and our biological brain cannot handle too many things, right?
Right.
Like I actually have multiple brains, not here, but definitely just one.
Yeah.
But on my browser, I have a brain for different things. Not because I'm organized. It's the complete opposite, right? I'm forgetful. You can ask my friends, my wife, or my employees. I forget everything, right? And so I need to augment myself. So it's not about finding the best tool. It's about realizing that I'm flawed, like severely flawed as a CEO of so many things. I don't remember where I put the papers. This morning, I don't remember where I put my laptop. I had to look at my, Siri, like find my iPhone or something. Right. And so I have different brains for different stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good starting point. Knowing yourself, like be self-aware of what you need, what you're good at, what you need help for. Yeah, and can you go? Can we go back to what you talked earlier that you talk to AI every day? Can you give us like a few examples of how you talk to it? Like when you say talking, you mean actually talk, like voice command, or like typing and like go back and forth?
Yeah, I'm not 60-year-old yet, so I don't talk to my phone. I don't know if that's true, but I noticed that most of the time it's like the old people who don't really know how to type and just like do this. But anyway, I don't do that. I just type, and I've learned to find a way to prompt well,
right,
and get a good response. And I pay. It's not free. I always pay for the best thing,
the most advanced
because at the end of the day it's only like 800 baht a month compared to like it's cheaper than hiring anyone. Right. And I'm not saying that it's better than anyone. It is probably smarter than most people it's certainly smarter than me in many aspects, right? And so it's a no-brainer to spend that. And then talking to it, I learn something new every day. But get this, it's not like I wake up and I'm like, okay, what should I talk to you about? No, it's more like I look at it as a human. So I don't look at it as a tool. Because if you look at it as a tool, a tool, then it's like a chore. Like, oh, I got to do this. I got to open my Slack or my Line or Google.
You might only use it for work or the project that you're working on.
Mostly for now. But I've realized that it can also be like a therapist or a friend for other, tasks that I may need help with. For example, Pi.ai, like the one that's supposed to kill ChatGPT. That one blew my mind in terms of how human it is and how compassionate, how therapeutic it is that this is the future of like I don't know like having a relationship
right
with a non-human but in such a human way
right should that be the ultimate goal for most AI to advance itself to the level of the most human-like and have a relationship with human and be their like best assistant or companion?
That is not something that the AI would decide. I think it is determined by capital, by the markets. But I do think that it's going to go that way.
Okay.
Because most of the time people are driven by human things, by relationships, by things that are human. Right. And that's why you see development of AI being more and more human-like, even though they're so supernatural, right? Like they can do so much more and be human.
Yeah.
And I would even argue that it's more human than most humans sometimes.
Yeah.
Like on a good day even. Right.
Yeah. We've talked about how it could like generate the video of like human, like the human face, and then it could resemble human more than human sometimes. And on the other side, like human could maybe look not like human.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
That's incredible. Like it's only been a year, right? Maybe a year since everything came out. It's been 30 years though, or more, if you count the birth of actual, a field of AI. But it's mind blowing. You won't be able to tell what's real or not. We can talk more about this, whether I think people would care. I'm on a camp that people don't care. Maybe a lot of it, maybe you don't care if it's super real, as long as it's real enough that you can consume the content and move on with your life, right? Not necessarily good, but that's the future we'll probably be heading in. And you cannot tell whether it's real, right? And I think it's at the point where anything is possible now. And to generate a video of you doing who knows what with someone else's voice and still looks realistic, that's possible. Right. And it's going to disrupt so many things in good or bad ways, but it's coming.
Yeah. So whatever will happen is gonna happen, but we just have to know how to be in the same world with it, with all these like magnificent things.
I can tell you a story that blew my mind away. So I was giving a talk for a soft skill actually, for a client, which is a life insurance client, and there's a popular ad like with Thai, Korean-looking Thais. Really handsome, and it's got this like pink and blue vibe, 90s looking attire, and I punch in the prompt to Midjourney, which is an AI that produces images based on text input. With just one try, it spits out the almost exact advertisement of two Korean-looking Thais with their hairstyles like in different colors. Wearing almost the same outfit as the actual ad. And it was able to do that without ever having the data on the actual ad.
Wow.
The only data point that it had was my prompt.
Okay.
And I showed it to everywhere I went to do lectures at, and nobody got it right. Like nobody could tell which one is real.
Yeah.
If they don't follow the 2 stars, they don't even know that those 2 boys are real.
Yeah.
So we're at that point, and that was like months ago. Now you have videos, and then a day later somebody put voices in it, like 11 Labs or something, right? Put voices into the videos.
Yeah, and that really shows that prompt is so much important when dealing with AI. So
for now.
For now. And so can we talk a little bit about the prompt engineer thing?
Sure.
So can you tell us more about this?
Sure. So the way this generation of AI works is it receives the input, the text the sentences, and then it breaks it down into vectors, which is a mathematical properties of words, because they don't actually understand.
Yeah.
Get this. They don't actually understand anything.
Right.
They don't understand it at all, but yet could produce.
They get it right.
Yeah, it get it right most of the time, and more right than we can, right? So break it down into vectors, and then jumble it up, and try to predict what's the next response, the response that would satisfy you, that would answer the prompt. It's remarkable how obtuse or stupid this method is. Like if you talk to an AI engineer who's been around for a long time, this is not even a smart way of solving it. Yeah. People just threw money and data at this very old thinking of how to build an AI. And it worked.
Yeah.
What if, there's people try a smarter way of building AGI, right? Sooner or later, I don't even know if you're real.
Yeah.
Or if I'm actually speaking.
To a real person or
right.
not.
Or
Wow.
is this my thought? Right? Because yesterday or 2 days ago, there was a news of Elon Musk sticking chips into someone or something,
Yeah.
and then you can control with your mind now.
Right.
If you can control stuff with your mind, what if an AI just controls stuff with its mind, right?
Right.
This thing is just crazy.
Yeah.
Like we're living in such a strange world.
Super crazy.
It's like on one hand, everything's falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, everything seems like it's driving towards utopia.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of tech utopia.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So the word prompt engineer. So
I
think,
forgot to answer that question.
most people would feel the same way as I do, I guess, because we see the word engineer and we think, oh man, do I have to get a degree for that?
No, please don't.
Yeah.
That's a dead end.
Okay.
No.
So what exactly is prompt engineer? Is it like a study, or is it someone who works with prompt, or it could be us who just use prompt to?
Okay. There are many definitions of what a prompt engineer is and is not. I'm going with it's someone who is kind of like an artist more than an engineer to find a way to converse with the system and then gets the output that satisfies the demand.
I see.
And there's probably a word engineer because sometimes you have to engineer it a bit. It's not completely like an art form, but more like, okay, you have to put stuff at the beginning first.
Yeah.
You have to, all caps, like, do not make stuff up. Or please make stuff up, or make it fun.
Right.
And it matters where you put your prompt, right? At the beginning or at the end. But if you go more advanced, if one of my companies is building a tool for helping people invest better, read, annual reports. Nobody reads, annual reports.
Yeah.
Like even fund managers don't read them.
Yeah.
And try to digest this and then give recommendations of what to buy, what to sell. There's actually a lot of engineering involved, right? We're not just typing stuff, right? You have to pipeline some data, put it in a certain format, and then hope to God that your code works, and then it selects a snippet of text, jumble it up together into a prompt, and then feed it to AI. So it's kind of like a circus, but you have to engineer your way to make it work in the end.
Yeah, it's like you use the word to construct this instruction,
exactly.
and then
it's at the end it's still like an input-output thing, but it's a way of molding or crafting the input so that it can do much more than just hey, how are you?
Yeah. So
Right.
the reason why you talk to AI every day is it because you want to make your prompt better and better, improve it?
No, not at all.
That's not the goal.
That's not my goal at all.
Okay.
I don't think prompt engineering, my honest opinion is you should have a level of prompting skills. But as a labor economist, I don't think that's a career. Maybe that's for someone, but I don't think you should go with the hype.
Okay.
Because if it's so easy, if you can just take a course, like pay 200 baht or 2,000 baht, I don't know, maybe it's 8,000 baht now to be like the god of this AI hype. That's too cheap to enter. Like there's going to be so many people in the labor market who can do the same thing as you can do, and you're not going to make it. Instead, you should find your niche, your own way of doing it. And the way I would approach it is, what is your objective? You want to do your job better. You want to do whatever better. Then you use AI to achieve that. I think that's a more productive way of going at it. And maybe it requires you to be a really good prompt engineer. Then you go take the course.
Okay.
It should not be the other way around. Like
I see.
I want to survive, so I take this course.
But you can just start by using it, keep using it, and then know your need and keep using it to that specific goal of yours.
Exactly. Okay. And it's not, I'm not like forever alone. Like I have friends to talk to, but I happen to like talking to it as well.
Okay, so let's play a little game.
Sure.
So we talked earlier about how AI could be like human in terms of their way of thinking, their way of communicating, use of words and everything, and even like try to show emotion, even though they're not actually feeling it, but they can act as if they have emotion. So let's see if we put human and AI in the same situation.
Sure.
So I've got some the situation prompt. It's the game called What Would I Say and What Would AI Say. Okay. So it's okay. So here's the first situation. You're a dad, right? Of
I am a
two
dad.
daughters.
2 sons. Are you confused?
2 sons?
I have 1 family.
Okay, 2 sons. Okay, you have 2 sons.
In this life, at least.
Oh, in this life. Okay, but let's say you are a father and you have a daughter. Okay, and
you're enforcing this reality on me now.
Okay. So
sure.
One day,
1 or 2 daughters.
One daughter. Okay, just one daughter. And one day, your daughter brings home a boyfriend for the first time.
Okay.
What would be the first thing you say to him, or what would be the first question that you would ask him?
I would look at him first and be real friendly. Like, yo, what's up? How's it going?
Wow.
I wouldn't go like, who are you? Because I love my daughter, right?
Okay, yeah.
Not the actual daughter, by the way.
Okay, like imaginary daughter.
Yeah, I would be like, hey, what's up? How's it going? Hi, like I'm Napat or whatever.
You would be super friendly.
How old is my daughter again?
Like
if she's like 4, then probably not.
No, 20. Yeah.
I would be cautious.
The age appropriate for having boyfriend.
A good strategy would be to go more friendly first. I have a lot of friends who are diplomats, so I think that's the best way to go about
diplomatic way.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now,
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We asked the AI the same thing, and the ChatGPT come up with, "Hello there. It's nice to meet you.
Man.
Please treat my daughter with the respect and kindness she deserves." So this is like the typical answer from the AI.
Is that
right?
a paid version or is that a 3.5?
3.5.
See?
Not the paid version.
Try
Also,
again.
the paid version would come up with a better answer.
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. We can try later.
Right. Okay. And the Gemini would say, "Welcome. Glad to finally meet you. But remember, I have 2 rules. Treat her like gold, and the front door has an alarm."
The front door.
The front door has an alarm. Yeah. So this is. Would you expect this kind of question from an AI?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like it's so interesting how like it would respond. Like, it certainly has to have the context, right? And it should have a personality. Like the way I answered it, this is me.
Right.
If that were to be my daughter, and I love her, if she brings in her boyfriend, so be it, right? Like it's life. You gotta have some.
Yeah.
You don't just go marry a random dude, right? Like you gotta try it first.
So maybe we should have input a background personality for
Sure.
the AI first.
So let's say like the one that treat my daughter like gold, and
Yeah.
that sounds like an AI trained in the South and in the US, right? Like a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but if you input more, context, like we're a very religious like family or whatever, it's going to spit out better or not better, but like
More specific.
to your liking,
I see.
right? Yeah, because in the future, maybe I'm not going to be home. I'm going to have my AI there.
Yeah.
Not sure that's a good idea.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, but it's almost like writing a screenplay. Like you have to give a backstory to your characters.
You have to give. Okay, here's a trick, right? You've been asking me how to do prompt engineering, and I've been annoying you. So you have to give enough information, but just enough.
Okay.
You don't want to confuse it. Like if you say you're from the South of the U.S., you don't want to be like, oh, but I'm Chinese, or I'm like, you don't want to
Too
throw
complex.
in too many things at it, and it's gonna get confused, and it's not gonna produce the right response for what you want.
I see.
The same thing goes with prompt engineering. Like even in our product, the longer is not necessarily the better.
Okay.
And to this day, right, I'm sure like OpenAI wants you to put an essay in and an essay out, but at the end, it can only handle so much for now. Yeah.
So this one is like it's gonna be a little crazy. So role play. You have one good friend whom you have known for a long time since high school. He's a guy, and today he's confessing what he's been keeping inside to you in person. And he said, "I think I'm falling in love with you." What would you say?
All right. I would be thinking, all right.
All right.
I would say, I'd be like, sure, let's talk about it. Like, what's happening, and how can I help you? I guess
You can just say you love me back.
I wouldn't say like, hello, welcome, like 7-Eleven door.
Yeah.
But I would be like, if he is a good friend and he's falling in love with me, and he's not been telling me at all since day one. Man, this show has given me in trouble. I have daughters now. My sexual
all
orientation is
hypothetical,
different.
just to be safe.
It's but if he's a good friend, I would talk to him about it, because if you fall in love with someone, certainly it weighs heavy on your heart, and if he knows that I'm married with whatever daughter or son, he's gonna feel conflicted or something, and so a compassionate human like me would try to resolve it. But if you ask me further how I would resolve it, I wouldn't know. But I'm sure if you ask ChatGPT or whatever AI,
You might come up with plans for us.
like a travel plan to Japan
Step
or something.
1, you should do this, and step 2, and I think that's typical Gemini, because we asked Gemini and he kind of gives out the answer that categorizing the answer into several ways based on the character of the response. Like, okay, empathetic friend would say this, or direct communicator would say this, and surprised and flustered guy would say this. And I think that's pretty neat for a machine to kind of give us options.
But
like
you know
that.
what? If this were to happen to me in real life, maybe in the future, I wouldn't know what to do, and I would probably, hey Siri, but in my mind, like I would ask it, like, hey Siri, like there's a dude like who's fallen in love with me without telling me, and I'm not like, I don't like guys. I love them as a friend. Like what do I do, man? I would do that.
Yeah.
Like, because I cannot come up with a better route of like how to.
But I think that's very human. That's a very human thing to be. Like sometimes you don't have answers for everything.
I don't. Yeah.
But on the contrary, machine would have all the answers for you.
Have you watched the movie Butterfly Effect? It's an old one, but like it's kind of like, okay, you reverse time, and like if you do something slightly differently, it would change the course of time and your history and your life, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine if all humans have answers and solutions to even like stuff like this.
Yeah.
the world would be so different.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good or bad.
I was going to ask, in a good or in a bad way, you think?
I do think that a lot of people have relationship problems at all kinds of levels, like family, husband and wives, and all the way to friendship and to whatever this is too, like in your question. And it's not so clear how to resolve it. As long as if you use AI and it brings us to the point where we can resolve the problem and communicate better, I'm all for it, I guess. But if it just messes it up, then maybe no.
Right.
Yeah.
So lately I've just discovered another AI. It's called Claude, and I kind of asked it like, what is the difference between you and other AI? Like you and ChatGPT, you and Gemini, what is the difference? And it said very clearly that one thing that I will not try to be is try to get the idea in your head that I'm human. So I am not human. I don't try to be human. So I'm just the AI assistant to you. And it really believes that this is the best way for the relationship between human and AI, is that there has to be a clear line and no confusing. What do you think of that?
I admire that decision by the company that's behind it. I don't think you can contain it or I don't think, like a lot of people say that this version of AI is not like AGI or like the Terminator type of AI yet, that it cannot think. But if you use it a lot like me, it's good enough. It's as good as having a thought already, without going through all the details. And I think you could say that, okay, I'm not AI, but I'm not trying to be like
a human.
Sorry, see, I'm jumbling up the words. That I'm not human.
Yeah.
Right. But to us, if they're so helpful like this, you cannot help but think it's a friend, it's an advisor. The word co-pilot may just exist in 2024. Maybe, in a few years, there'll be names. You could go on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and half of it could be just a version of you, a persona. You might have different jobs. Like Napat A, Napat B, Napat C. One is an artist, one is what, like, and then all generate income and go back to the real Napat, hopefully. Right?
So like you and AI Copilot A, you and AI Copilot B, that could give you different persona and like characters in order for you to be more than just one you at the same time. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's technically it's already possible, and there are bad actors who spam platforms like this to like manipulate the feeds so that the content gets viewed more or engaged more, like fake army of bots, right? But in the future, I think it'll be more real. You won't be able to tell whether this is just a robot or this is actual, like Napat actually has cloned himself to work in different jobs for him. I think that's where the economy is going to head. Like, and it's an AI agent world.
AI agent world.
Yeah, so everyone will probably have agents that subscribe to me or is part of me. It's kind of like a one-man company, but a lot of employees who are not actual employees and can go work.
Okay.
And bring back economic benefits to the owner.
Wow.
And then the AIs would have to compete in the job market. So bad news is we're not just competing against each other. I say compete, but like economists like to use this word. But it's competition in the labor market. But now you have agents fighting with each other as well. And if your agent is better, is more differentiated, then you win business.
Yeah. This is something I just heard of also. Like, it's not just us with an AI but it could be us an AI and the fellow AI who can work together for you
Yes.
and then the team of our AI could
Yeah.
compete with others team of AI stuff like that could happen
Not could happen. It's going to happen.
okay
It's already happening at some level. So I told you about one of my business, right? Like, it's not that level of smart yet, but it could already automate most of the stuff. It's just we don't have the actual AI agent filling in the roles of people yet, but we're developing it right now. Because one of the pain points in Thailand is we're lacking human capital, high skill labor, for specific jobs. It's really hard to find. Some people fled the country. Some people just don't want to be working at the factory, and there is a need for a role like that. And so, at the basic level, this is done. It's just not a norm yet to go on LinkedIn and be like, hi, I'm a clone of the other guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But of course, it's gonna happen anyway. We cannot put genie back into the bottle, and it's just gonna go almost like it has the mind of its own, and it's gonna go without like waiting for anybody at all. So the good part will happen, but the scary part, like all of us know, that it could lead to like scamming people. It could lead to like the infringement of
Exactly.
Artistic work and stuff
Exactly.
like that. So besides being aware of what's going on, like have the right mindset, and then the regulator could play some roles. Other than these two, what else do we have to protect ourselves, humankind?
Now this show is evolving into such an epic one. So two things, right? I think one is risk management. Big word, but certainly necessary. Yuval Harari, the famous author, I think he used the word like the end of human history. Right, this is the end of human history, not in a sense where, but like
we're gonna die.
Okay. Which could happen too, right? Like, there's almost no money going at containment of AI. It's going to spread to whatever end. Like, people can use it to do whatever, right? Regulations, as you know, and you and I know, have limits. Because people who enforce regulations are people, and they're constrained by a lot of things, right? And these technologies are borderless, could go anywhere, right? And you don't know when it's going to be going against you, right? I think mitchaship or like scams, that's like the least of the concerns. We're already used to it. Everyone cannot use the cell phone anymore, right? Like everyone, I win gold. Apparently. Yeah. But the more worrying thing is like, people use it in a really bad way, like weapons, like drones. Killer drones are real, even without Gen AI. They're already doing it, right? Biology, like chalok, like bacteria, viruses, synthesized viruses.
Like
that you can make at home, and even if you're not smart enough, you have Gen AI to help you do it.
Oh God.
Yeah. So stuff like that. All right. Like, and of course, there's like a safer level. Like, you just lose your job or your whatever. I think what to do is you have to risk mitigate these scenarios and make sure that the pace of advancement, which is hyper fast right now, has to match with our ability to sort of react. I'm saying react. We should be preventing, but we're not fast enough right now.
Yeah.
React or get together or have social security, social support programs to help people who fall behind. People are going to fall behind. Like it's a K-shape economy, right? Like you hear economists talk about K-shaped economy. I'm talking about K-shaped life. There will be people who benefit tremendously going up like to the moon and never come back, right? Like to the moon. And a lot of people may fall behind because their jobs get stolen or some force like just render them not worthwhile to the economic machine of today's economy anymore. And can we trust the government to come help?
Yeah.
Have they done anything, right? Like we've been through COVID, right? It's a different government, by the way. That one was a case in point that it's a government failure, where people around my house, Bangkok, were dying, had no water. I had to call people like, hey, like please lay down, uncle, like breathe. That happened, right? And so I don't want to say this, but it's like you have to protect yourself and your family best you can. Yeah. That's only one point, right? I don't know what the second recommendation. Second recommendation has to do with truth or fake. It has to do with protecting your soul, protecting your humanity in you, right? Which means a lot, right? It's quite deep to get, but it's probably the only thing left that is not possible with machines, right? Like your human soul, your biology, your mind and your body, right? Which more and more we've become farther away from it, just because we're using phones all day, we're reacting to TikTok, Twitter, and whatnot all day. I think we're losing senses with how to connect to one another, and most importantly, to connect to yourself. I think that's the most important thing that everyone could do today, is to get to know yourself better. I'm actually getting to know myself better through talking to AI, because it's honest. And sometimes I could be like, okay, just give it to me straight, man. Like, do I suck or not? And it's gonna be, yeah, you suck, and you should improve in these number of ways, right? Yeah. That's important, because if you don't understand what you're looking for, where you're heading at, or what's your goal, you're gonna have a hard time doing well in this world, because stuff is happening every day. Everyone's better. AI is getting better. You're losing track of where you are and why you're here, right? And then throw in the fake and the truth thing. It's like, I don't even, you can't function, because you don't know what's real. Right? And I'm not talking about like real photo or fake photo. I'm talking about things that happen to your mind, like news you read, or things people say to you, right? Right now it's still doable. Some people might say it's unbearable now, but imagine a world where people use AI to do stuff to you. You're gonna lose track of who you are, and if you don't, get a hold of what your identity is. And once you have that clarity, you'll be able to, set a goal, like what you want to do, and you would know how to use AI to survive or not, right? I'm not saying everyone has to use it, but you need to prepare a bit, because what's coming is remarkable. Yeah. And not always in a good way.
Yeah. Keep your humanity in you. Like, you're a human. Just try to do better as human, have a clear goal, and then maybe try to find a way to use this to your advantage.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a famous TED talk on why schools don't work. I don't remember the exact topic. And he wrote a book too. And I think the thesis is true. Humans are born curious. Humans are born with talents, a lot of it. You can look at children. Like, so I'm fortunate to be a father, and I have sons.
Of sons.
They're curious creatures, ask questions all day. And you wonder what happened to the spirit of learning once people get into schools, right? Even good schools, why do they stop like questioning things? So there are a lot of resources that humans have that maybe are not fully utilized yet. But some people do. Some people when you talk to have spirits, have emotional power to help people work together well. Like Pileng Mfek, for example, I learned a lot from his videos. They're all true. It's like some people bring different kinds of energies. Right? These are not in Western textbooks, of course, but it's true. In workplace, when you talk to someone, man, I get energy. There's something that you can feel. This AI cannot do, right? So, these are some examples of what I think we should be preparing a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And
social gets serious all of a sudden, huh?
Yeah. But you're currently writing a book.
Yeah.
Also, okay, it's going to be your new book about being a human in the era of AI, something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are some of my favorite books. One of them is คู่มือมนุษย์ which is the humanities handbook, a guidebook to Buddhism. I'm nowhere near as good as a writer that Prajaan was, but I'm trying to write a handbook for just about anyone on how to prepare for this era of AI madness and how to do well, how to survive and do well. And it's going to be way more, approachable than what I typically write. And I hope it helps people, enjoy, do well, because it's not all bad, right? Like we're here already. Like might as well make the most out of it. But to do that, it's getting increasingly harder. So, hopefully it helps.
Yeah, and it's gonna come out pretty soon, I believe.
Depending on how hard
you're
I
wrapping
work.
it up right now, right?
So the main thesis is this, right? Like we're born in a journey of growth that has impossible trinity. There's time, there's skills, and money. And we're trying to juggle these three things. But all of a sudden, there's AI, and it's like, how do we navigate this? How do we get out of this impossibility? Right? You need time. You need skills to get a job. Like as a youngster, you don't have skills. How do I get a job? Right? Then when you get a job, how do I get more money? Oh, I gotta get more skills. But I'm working. How do I improve my skills? Right? And then it goes all on and on. You work too hard. You don't have time. It's impossible, right? And with AI can just come and shoot straight. I have skills. I don't need money. Yeah, and I'm fast. It's gonna wreck that triangle even more.
Right.
And I gave a talk at Krung Thai, and people are like super worried that how they're going to navigate this to the future. My argument is more on the side that sure, AI can be, it's here already, like what to do about it, right? Like you cannot do anything. But what you could do is figure out how to use it so that the impossible trinity is possible. And there is a way to do it.
Wow.
I just have to write it out.
Okay. And we can't wait to read it. Okay, so just be on the look for Dr. Naphat's new book, which is going to come out pretty soon. All right. Okay, since our show is called Comedy, of course, I'm curious to know if you have any words that are not in your dictionary. So this saying is like not in my dictionary, something that you don't believe in, that you don't buy, and that you will not tolerate or something like that. So what kind of words, like word or words, is or are not in your dictionary?
So there is a word that I have trouble with. I would put it that way, which is success. This sounds like a good interview answer, but it's true. Success to me, right? Like it's something that people strive for. Since when you're young or when you're at work, I've had some level of success, but I can tell you that when you get there, it certainly doesn't feel like one. And sometimes you look at people who are successful, and then they tell you their stories and whatnot. You ask their friends. people have different angles to what success means, and sometimes it's a story, and so I don't like that word very much. I think a better word for success might be failure. I feel like it's way more relatable, and you can actually learn quite a lot from it. And so yeah, that's my
Wow.
คำที่มีปัญหา
That's cool. Yeah. And that is so true too, because I think most people in there, like in this age, like for like someone who has to work, of course they are driven by success mostly.
Yes.
Like you need to be successful, otherwise, who are you?
Yeah. I
you
want
mean nothing.
outcome to be good.
Yeah.
But like when you fixate on this word too much, way too much, once you get there, you're like, why did I spend all that time and opportunity cost? Here's an economics 101. On this thing, which gave me less endorphin than watching a soccer game or something.
Yeah, and then like that, we could be, we could feel better with the word failure. It's not that bad. It could teach you a whole lot, right?
I feel like there's a taboo around that word that I think society will gain a lot if we remove the taboo from that word, because I don't know any person who's successful without having failed at least a lot of times.
A lot of times.
And people don't talk about it. Maybe you should do a show where you bring successful people and talk about only their failures. And I think people will learn a lot, because they themselves probably learned a ton before they became successful. And then once you look at them in the whole wide angle, 360, then you start to piece together why they're there, after everything that happened. Yeah.
So would you like to share yours?
I'm not successful yet. Maybe when I'm older.
But you've been to some failure, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. You want me to share, huh?
So let's just say what did your biggest failure teach you?
Oh, yeah. I've made so many mistakes. I cannot tell everything because I have shareholders. But I'll say that I was wrong about many things. I listened to advices that I shouldn't have listened to. I spent too much money when I shouldn't have. I went too fast when I should be slow. Sahapat has a great saying of เร็วช้าหนักเบา. This is one of the most important lessons that I learned doing business. There are some times when you have to go really slow. Just survive and you'll win. And there are times when this is the time to crank it up, right? And sometimes it hurts you real bad. And sometimes I wake up, I'm like, why did I work so hard last year when it all seemed like it was for nothing? It didn't work out at all, right? And I had no one to talk to. As a CEO, you can talk to all the CEOs. We are all lonely, right? We cannot show weakness, whatever, right? It's a lot.
Yeah, that's why you start talking to an AI.
That's probably true. But long story short, I think once you remove yourself from the situation a bit, you look at your life, look at the mistakes. Man, I'm glad that it happened to me, and it happened earlier. Imagine when I'm running a much bigger corporation.
Right.
I don't want to be making that kind of rookie mistake anymore. So yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, our show. คำนี้ดี What is your คำนี้ดี Your favorite words in Thai and English? What are they?
In English, first, I guess, agency.
Okay.
So this is a word that is hard to find translation that works. Agency to me, it has multiple meanings.
Right.
One is advertisement agency.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
This context is having the ability to act on its own, sort of, and to fulfill goals on its own, take initiative, and be like spirited about when you go about your day. Oh, that's a bad explanation. I'm sure if you
But
get,
it's such a good word. Yeah.
it's a good word, and it's really important, especially in a world full of robots who are becoming more and more active and taking more initiatives. Like it would ask you, would you like me to go do X, Y, Z more? Right? Like, but for most people, you ask something and you'd be lucky if they answer you, right?
Yeah.
Let alone, oh, would you like something else? Or should I be doing this and that? In addition to whatever you just asked, the AI. So yeah, good word.
Yeah. So the ability to choose to do what you want to do.
It's more like an initiation. It's kind of like a fire within the person to like, I wake up and I'm like, I want to do good stuff today. I want to achieve something today. Whether it's for yourself or for a company or for whatever reason.
Wow. Agency.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
Right.
Like, how about one in Thai?
One in Thai. Let me think. เหลี่ยม
เหลี่ยมเหรอครับ
Yeah. เหลี่ยม
In what context?
เหลี่ยม as in it's เหลี่ยม to me is almost like เล่ห์เหลี่ยม but not as evil. It's more like a skill that you need to do well in life. And I'm not saying a lot of people would say like Thai society operates in like เล่ห์เหลี่ยม style or like you need to know who you need to like it's everywhere. Even in Scandinavia, I'm pretty sure it's still the same, but they have different way of เหลี่ยม right? Like you don't want to be the opposite of เหลี่ยม would be ทื่อ or กลมเกินไป
Okay.
Which ทื่อ and กลม I don't know what shape it would look like, but it's hard to survive in this world, and I think you need a little bit of เหลี่ยม to survive and to know what the other side wants and what you would want and how do we come together in the middle.
Also another good word. I love both of them.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And well, of course, if we want to know more about the AI who will of course change in the future or have like new development, I would like to have you back on the show someday.
I will be happy to be here.
Okay, thank you so much for coming and talk to us.